This man's name is Seo-joon. He was a former detective who worked as a project foreman. He had a wife named Mi-yeon. Since he decided to resign from the police force, their life changed to a simpler one, which made them both have to work hard so that they could get out of the rented house and realize their dream of having their own dream home. That day, Seo-joon was working as usual when suddenly he was called by his manager, Joe, to meet him at the office. When he got there, Joe offered him a promotion in Seoul with the benefit of a salary increase of 20%, full insurance coverage, and a permanent contract. Since Seo-joon was collecting money to buy a house, he accepted the offer without any hesitation. After that, he immediately called his wife, but he didn't immediately tell her about his promotion. He planned to tell her when they go on their honeymoon. While the workers were doing their work, a plank collapsed, leaving one of the workers hanging and almost falling. As the foreman, Seo-joon was responsible for this. He immediately helped the man. Somewhere else, Mi-yeon suddenly got a call from Seo-joon's old friend, Kim Yoon-soo, a lawyer. He said that one of Seo-joon's workers had an accident at work, resulting in death, and Seo-joon had to be jailed for the incident. But this could be resolved if Mi-yeon could transfer money to his account. Not wanting her husband to end up in jail, she transferred all of her savings. Meanwhile, Seo-joon actually managed to save the worker who almost fell. Seo-joon, who found a lot of missed calls from Mi-yeon, immediately called her back. Mi-yeon immediately asked about his current condition and asked about his friend, Kim Yoon-soo. Knowing that Seo-joon was fine and had never had a friend named Kim Yoon-soo, she realized that she had just been phished. She panicked and immediately rushed to report it to the bank. Meanwhile, the fraudsters quickly rushed to withdraw the money in cash. When Mi-yeon arrived at the bank, it was too late. The fraudsters had already succeeded in withdrawing all the money, so it would be useless if her account were blocked. When she heard that, she felt weak, realizing all the money she had saved with her husband had disappeared. Mi-yeon immediately reported it to the police, but they said that it would be too difficult to track the fraudster. Mi-yeon went home feeling very disappointed. When she was going to cross the road, Kim Yoon-soo called her back. She begged him to return her money, but instead of feeling sorry for her, Kim Yoon-soo felt satisfied with what he had done. Mi-yeon was shocked in the middle of the road until in the end she was hit by a passing traffic. Mi-yeon was rushed to the hospital accompanied by Seo-joon. That night, while accompanying Mi-yeon in her room, Seo-joon got a call from Joe, who apologized for his carelessness. Feeling something strange, he went to the office to see Joe, only to find him dead. That same evening, Joe was buried in the cemetery. Many workers were annoyed with Joe for his mistake. Not long after, a worker came in a rage and asked for his money because he needed the money for his son's surgery. The man saw Seo-joon and remembered that he was a former detective, immediately asked him for help to find the fraudster, but Seo-joon was just silent. That afternoon, Seo-joon asked one of the employees who was with Joe the day before. The woman said that Joe was called by an insurance company that offered cheap insurance for their workers. Joe was tempted by this and gave all the workers data. Remembering there was no signal at the construction site, Seo-joon tried to look at the CCTV. There he found the suspicious man at the scene when his colleague almost fell, and with only a clue in the form of a tattoo on the man's neck, he immediately looked for the man's identity at some tattoo parlors, but to no avail, until finally someone admitted that the tattoo was made by him and told Seo-joon that the man who had the tattoo was a recruiter for a company in Busan. The man Seo-joon was looking for was gathering foreigners who worked with him and preparing to go to his headquarters. Without them knowing, Seo-joon followed them quietly, then he made a bold maneuver and crashed into the man's car. Seo-joon then beat the man until he opened his mouth. Finally, the man admitted that he worked for Park, someone who was in Daeramdong. Park was the one who told him to cut off the signal at the construction site that day. After Seo-joon heard all that, he immediately handed the man over to the police. Seo-joon then met a police anti-phishing leader, Kyu-ho, who was giving a seminar to residents who had just been phished. Seo-joon asked him to handle this case as quickly as possible, but Kyu-ho instead responded casually, making Seo-joon angry and left in disappointment. On the other hand, a woman named Kang-chil was dealing with her former boss, Gong, because she stole his company's money. Seconds before she was almost beaten by her boss's dogs, Seo-joon came to save her and without further ado, immediately explained his purpose to ask her to track down someone. It turned out that Kang-chil was a hacker. After that, Seo-joon left. The next day, Seo-joon went to meet Kang-chil and asked about the progress. At first, Kang-chil was reluctant to do it, but when Seo-joon mentioned about money, she immediately looked for the target, and in an instant, she managed to find the location. Strangely, she found 3 different places, so that the whereabouts of the targets were not yet known. They suspected that this action was not only carried out by one person, but many. Seo-joon visited one of the locations. At first, he was about to be chased out by the guards, but he managed to convince them to let him in. He accidentally saw one of the police officers undercover there and reported it to Park, who was the team leader there. Knowing that, Park immediately told the workers to run away, while the police, who knew that their cover was blown, immediately entered and ambushed the place. With the help of Seo-joon, Park could escape from the place. Park then offered a lift and Seo-joon got into his car. He also asked Seo-joon's purpose in coming to his office. Seo-joon explained that he wanted to work with Park, but at the branch in China, Park agreed and told him to go to Shenyang to meet his colleague named Chien. Shortly after, Seo-joon got out of the car and immediately reported the car plate to the police. The next day, Seo-joon went to the airport accompanied by Kung-chil. She gave him a fake passport. Before separating, Kung-chil told him to let her know if something happened, and after that, Seo-joon left. Somewhere else, Kyu-ho got the news that Seo-joon was caught helping Park escape, but then reported Park's car to the police. Hearing this, he felt suspicious that Seo-joon might be planning something, so Kyu-ho ordered his subordinates to look for Seo-joon's whereabouts. Hours later, Seo-joon finally arrived in Shenyang. He immediately looked for Chien's whereabouts and someone told him to wait at the hotel. That night, when Seo-joon was fast asleep, he was suddenly beaten by Chien's men and asked about his purpose in meeting Chien. Seo-joon explained that he wanted to work with him. Knowing that Chien's men immediately asked for his identity first. He almost blew his cover, but in the end, he managed to convince them. Seo-joon was taken to their headquarters and was told to work right away, but instead of working, he instead unplugged the telephone cable and pretended that the cable had been unplugged by itself. Chien, who found out about this, immediately came down to Seo-joon to warn him. During the break, one of the workers was praised by his superiors because he was able to earn around 3.75 billion in just 6 months. Hearing that made Seo-joon curious about where the salary they get came from, but nobody knew that because it could only be seen on the 4th floor, and no one could go there except for Chien. Afterward, they went back to work. Seo-joon's teammates encouraged him to work harder so he could make more money. He also said that Seo-joon could work in calm if he managed to join the phishing designer team led by someone named Kwak. Not long after that, Kwak came down while calling his victim. He introduced himself as Kim Yoon-soo. When Seo-joon heard that, his blood boiled in anger because he finally managed to find the person who scammed his wife and made her fall into a coma, but he restrained himself. After the call, Kwak was fuming at one of his workers who had stolen the company's money. When he was about to finish him, Chien suddenly came and beat the worker with an iron bar. After work, Seo-joon asked his colleague about Kwak. They said that he was the head of the phishing designer team who earned 1.13 trillion every year. Previously, he was a manager in a company but was treated badly until his life was ruined, then he became a scammer. In another place, the police who were looking for Seo-joon's whereabouts finally asked Park, but Park didn't want to answer, so they used Park's computer to track Seo-joon's whereabouts. After a while, they found that Seo-joon was in Shenyang, but unfortunately, they couldn't find his exact position. Since the computers were connected, Chien finally realized that Park's computer was being hacked, so he ordered the workers to stop their activities for 30 minutes so that their hiding place wouldn't be discovered. That was an opportunity for Seo-joon to pay attention to Kwak, who was busy working with his team. Suddenly, Seo-joon entered the office and beat someone there. Turned out that Seo-joon had been monitoring someone who was secretly taking company money and then acted as if he didn't accept corruption in his workplace in the hope of attracting Kwak's attention. This action succeeded in making Kwak interested in him, and that led him to be transferred to Kwak's team. While he was there, he met a worker named Zhang whom he helped. While helping him, Seo-joon asked about the room which usually stores personal data, scripts, and accountings. Zhang told him what he knew. That was the beginning of their friendship. On the other hand, Chien got a call from the leader named Huang. He asked about their condition after being raided and then told Chien to be careful with Kwak because he suspected that he would betray them. A few moments later, Seo-joon was called by Kwak to his office. Unexpectedly, Kwak immediately hit his leg with a golf club because he was suspicious that Seo-joon was a victim who was planning revenge against him, so he warned him not to deal with them. Seo-joon was mad, but he kept his anger bottled up so that his identity wouldn't be revealed. Not long after that, Kwak got a call from Huang, so he told Seo-joon to leave. In that call, Huang scolded and degraded Kwak and then told him to develop a better script. After that call, Kwak, who had been holding back his anger, took it out by destroying the telephone. After that, he handed over his best script to his subordinates to give to Chien. On the other side, when Seo-joon was taking things in the elevator, he put a golf ball he took from Kwak's office to prevent the elevator from completely shut. He knew it was the only way to reach the 4th floor, which was safe enough to pass through. After that, Seo-joon passed through Kwak's office and accidentally saw Kwak calling on his second cell phone. He heard Kwak talking to his colleague named Min and mentioned his anger at Huang and the big mission he was going to do. After calling, Kwak immediately hid the cell phone in his golf club bag. Seo-joon was curious about what Kwak was going to do, so he carried out his action to go to the 4th floor. Seo-joon managed to enter Chien's room, but when he got there, he opened Chien's laptop. Unfortunately, he didn't know the password. Not long after, Chien came and Seo-joon immediately hid. Qian opened his laptop but suddenly got a call from Huang, which made him leave the room for a moment, and Seo-joon immediately took advantage of this opportunity. He immediately looked for evidence in the laptop, and after finding it, he immediately mailed it to Kung-chil. In another place, Kung-chil was being chased by Gong, who was going to finish her off because she still hadn't paid her debt, but she was saved after she received Seo-joon's email. She immediately told Gong that she would immediately pay the debt after successfully bringing in the money that Seo-joon asked for. A few minutes later, when everyone, including Qian, realized that Seo-joon was missing, Qian immediately ordered all the doors to be locked and went looking for him. On the other hand, Seo-joon realized that everyone was looking for him, so he escaped through the roof. After making it down, Seo-joon met Jong and asked him to keep it a secret. Then Seo-joon went into the toilet and pretended as if he had been there from the start. Not long after, Qian's men came into the bathroom and caught Seo-joon. They were so angry that they beat him and locked him in a room. The next day, Kung-chil went to the place that Seo-joon told her to go to, accompanied by Gong, but without them realizing, someone was following them from behind. On the other hand, the fraudsters would start their biggest fraud and would profit around $375 billion by deceiving teenagers that they have been accepted into a large company in Korea called Shinowon Holding and requiring them to pay a deposit. Seo-joon finally woke up. Jong saw him and decided to help him escape from the door. Seo-joon immediately ran as fast as possible to thwart their plan, but unfortunately, many had been scammed by them. In another place, Kung-chil immediately took the money and planned to launch the next mission to redistribute the money to the fraud victims, but when she wanted to take the money, Qian's underlings came and held them captive. Fortunately, the police who had been following Kung-chil immediately ambushed them. After that, Kung-chil was interrogated by Kyuho. It turned out that the police saw Seo-joon with her at the airport. Kyuho asked her to cooperate. At first she refused, but after being pressured, she finally agreed. Qian received news that all the money had been taken by the police. A few moments later, he also received news that Seo-joon was missing, but not long after that, Seo-joon was found by Qian's men, though they were easily beaten by Seo-joon. Seo-joon went into Qian's office using the key that his underlings had and then cut off the electricity. Hence, they stopped carrying out their scamming actions. Kwak was surprised when the electricity was cut off and immediately came out to find what was causing it. Seo-joon saw that and immediately went into Kwak's room and looked for Kwak's cell phone to give a message for help to Kyuho. But suddenly, Kwak returned and caught him red-handed. He then tried to beat Seo-joon, knowing he had found out about his secret. Not long after, Qian came and joined in beating Kwak after finding out that all this time, Kwak had been betraying him and working with someone else. But suddenly, Kwak's lackeys came and beat him to death. Kwak immediately ordered everyone to look for Seo-joon after he found out that Seo-joon was a former detective. Meanwhile, Seo-joon, who had just managed to escape, immediately met Jong, who out of the blue snitched on him, so he had to escape through the elevator shaft. Even though he managed to send a message to Kung-chil, he was finally caught by Kwak. Kwak immediately beat Seo-joon, but suddenly Kwak got a call from Huang, who said that he was on his way to the headquarters. After hanging up the phone, Kwak, who panicked because he had killed Qian, immediately asked Seo-joon to cooperate with him and said that this was all his doing. At first, Seo-joon refused, but after Kwak threatened to kill his wife, he had no other choice but to comply and told Huang that he had killed Qian. At the same time, Kyuho got a message from Seo-joon containing the headquarters address. At that very moment, Kyuho and his colleagues rushed to the location. They shortly after arrived at the place and immediately ambushed the place. When Kwak was about to finish off Seo-joon, suddenly he heard that the police had surrounded the place. Knowing that, he immediately ran away, but when Kwak was trying to escape, Seo-joon came and stopped him. This caused the two of them to get involved in a fierce fight. Seo-joon managed to corner Kwak and pointed his gun, but Kyuho found them and immediately stopped Seo-joon. Kwak was finally arrested. A few days later, the police announced that they had succeeded in arresting the scammers and had returned the money to the victims. The police also warned people to be more careful in the future and not to just believe the calls they received. After a long time, Seo-joon finally came to the hospital to meet Mi-yeon, who had just woken up from a coma. An emotional atmosphere broke out when Mi-yeon said that she was proud and scared at the same time when Seo-joon decided to investigate this case alone. 3 months had passed and Seo-joon was hired back as a detective after the heroic action he carried out. Meanwhile, Huang, who managed to escape to the Philippines, planned to carry out a new scam with the help of his new right-hand man, Jong.